That's a hard act to follow after that. Thank you, Florian and Forrest. Welcome to this gathering hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. Whether you are here in person or online, we are so glad that you are joining us. My name is Christina Kruger, and I'll be your service associate today on this kind of beautiful yet kind of dreary, cloudy day. Just a quick reminder to please set your cell phones to silent. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we may honor and learn from a wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is Samara Powers. Though we walk each our own path, here on this place on the land of the Osage, the Cherokee, the Shawnee, and now at this time, we get journey as one community. And before we get started, last week at our congregational meeting, we passed the 8th principle unanimously. And one thing we were looking at in Sunday services, how we can honor everybody from different cultures. This is actually an example from UU Gainesville, Florida. This comes from Samara Powers, and she says they say this is what they say at their church. So just a little different view of things. The land on which I live on is in north central Florida, is the traditional ancestral territories of the Patano tribe, of the Chicama people, and the Seminoles, who have been enriching this land before and during European colonialization. I acknowledge that the histories of this indigenous cultures are complex, and that the injustices and oppressions of colonialization are still ongoing. I strive to be mindful of my own participation. I commit to educating myself by listening to indigenous voices and celebrate indigenous lives and investing in indigenous livelihood in all the ways that I am able. A little different point of view for you. So for Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light and learning of our community. And of course, if you're online, if your congregation's chalice is lit, as our congregation, is lit, please light your own chalice at home if you have one. And afterwards, please join us in singing Rise Up, O Flame. This morning, Delia Rowe will be given our opening reading, which is the Lord's Prayer for Transgender Awareness.
O holy mystery, our beloved non-binary parent, in whom we move and breathe and have our being. The hallowing of your name shines forth in the diversity of your children. May your peace and love, justice and equity, inclusion and belonging reign here on earth as in heaven. Grant that our transgender loved ones might have their daily needs met, that they might find gainful employment without discrimination, that they might have access to affirming medical care without fear, that they might have their rights and lives protected, and that they might find a loving community to belong to and call their own. Forgive us for our ways that we have fallen short and failed your transgender children. Forgive us that for the times that we turned away or did not care, for the times we laughed or judged their unique expression of your image. For the times we have misspoken, asked too much, or failed to understand the harmful impact of our well-intended actions. As we forgive those who might have failed us, lead us away from the temptation to be complacent in the face of injustice, but instead give us courage for true allyship as we side with your beloved children, for your love and justice is to be made manifest now and forever. Amen.
Thank you, Jalaire. Our first hymn is number 38. Morn has broken. Rise if you're willing and able. Thank you, Forrest. So we have a special part of the service today. One of my biggest joys as president is being able to lead in our new membership ceremony. And we have 2 new members who are joining this congregation and this family. So I'll ask Nancy to come up. And then our 2 new members, James Miller and Barbara Victoria. Yeah, come on up. All right, everybody should have gotten a little flyer. Yeah. All right, so if you'll just follow along with me on your new member pledge. The act of becoming a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green is a public statement that you have found this to be your religion's home and you embrace our covenant. A member accepts responsibility and for continuing and sharing the faith journey that brought them to this place and for living in the community with others whose journeys may be different. We will now join in affirming our shared covenant. Members, if you're willing to stand. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation Green, hereby promise to live in harmony and civility, acceptance and celebration of our diversity. For our fellowship and of the Unitarian Universalist traditions through our individual gifts and talents.
We now welcome into our community the following individuals: Barbara Victoria and James Miller.
As president of this congregation, I greet you today on behalf of this gathered community, not only as new church members, but as new friends. We welcome you into our community and look forward to the future as we learn, grow, celebrate, serve, and support one another through the joys and sorrows of life. As members of this congregation, we all endeavor to grow spiritually, create community, and do the work of love and justice in the world. Will you join us in this work? Will you speak the truth as you understand it with courage and love? Will you endeavor to support this congregation financially and with your time, energy, and creativity? Will you support the ministries of this congregation, knowing that it is up to all of us to ensure this community remains vibrant? Members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green, please rise in body and spirit, which you already are. Having heard the promise of these new members and knowing of their desire to join in covenant with the community, will you, the members of this congregation, welcome them, joyfully care for them in their joys and sorrows, and encourage them in your spiritual lives?
We'd like you to come as we announce your name again, to come and join your flame with ours. Please.
Yeah, it works. Nope.
Try again.
Maybe.
And welcome. We'd like to present you our traditional cookbook. And James, if you come and like your handle with ours.
Maybe. Thank you, Nancy, and welcome to Barbara and James. We're happy to have you as part of this congregation. Oh, are you okay? It's always an honor. Blessing. We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, you're invited to join in the song Spirit of Life. The words will be on the screen. As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs And the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Here to share their own thoughts today is Samara Powers. Samara Powers is a parent, a poet, a non-theist, non-binary, queer positive, trans positive, relationship anarchist with a degree in English and a professional background in marketing and in graphic design. She is a seminary student at Meadville Lombard Theological School and has been active at the UU Fellowship in Gainesville, Florida, as a worship associate, a member of their last ministerial search committee, and team lead. Lost a spot. Technology. For their relationship advocacy team. She is a certified facilitator for the OWL curriculum for older adults. She co-houses as part of an intentional micro community, Gainesville, Florida. Here via video, we welcome Samara.
Good morning. For those of you just listening in, I am a tall, middle-aged white woman with my dark, long hair tied up in a messy bun on top of my head and held with wooden sticks. And I'm wearing a sort of taupe, drapey thing with one of my favorite necklaces, which reminds me of planets in orbit around the sun. My name is Samara, or Samara, and I use she, they pronouns. Carolyn R. Thompson has this to say about oppression. Quote, in the structural sense, oppression refers to the vast and deep injustices suffered by some groups as a consequence of the unexamined attitudes, cultural stereotypes, reactions, and behaviors of the media, bureaucracies, and well-meaning people in ordinary interactions. Leslie Feinberg's book, Transliberation, Beyond Pink or Blue, includes a valuable perspective. Quote, just because an individual is drawn into the vortex of a movement, it doesn't mean that person will automatically be enlightened on every aspect of other people's oppression, particularly that which they do not directly experience. Each individual still needs to overcome the bigotry that has been instilled in us from an early age. For clarity, let me explain that bigotry is defined as obstinate or intolerant devotion to one's own opinions and prejudices. It isn't really about ideology at all. It's about how firmly you stick to your own inner ideology, I suppose. This includes assumptions that we hold unwittingly, which is why spiritual unease or ontological discomfort, whatever you want to call it, is such a good sign when we're seeking to grow and transform. It means you're digging into new territory. Now, I'm a radical at heart, which means my approach to liberation tends toward the uncomfortable, destabilizing work of systemic overhaul necessary for paradigm shift. I don't really care whether you're wearing a red or a blue suit. I just want to know whether it's a suit you should be wearing at all. This means that my response to your request for guidance might take you in some unexpected and possibly uncomfortable directions. I hope you'll bear with me. I offer this in love and in the spirit of collaborative learning. Now, you wanted a speaker, someone with authority, to come and educate you about how you can address the dangerous wave of anti-trans legislation currently inundating the country. Several very out and very loud trans ministers were approached. All of them declined. And so you got me. I'm not transgender. Well, I'm non-binary, but I have loads of cis-passing privilege and history. But I am an ally, and I am someone with authorities to speak to you as one of you, currently doing the work, actively learning and developing my allyship. It's an ongoing process. I'm also the parent of a transgender young adult, and I am lucky to count many transgender leaders among the people I hold dear and close to my heart as friends or educators. I have struggled with anger and overwhelm and urgency and fear. So you wanted an authority on transgender allyship, but I'll tell you, you're not going to get that from a transgender person. Do you know why? It's not their job. Expecting or even hoping that an out transgender minister would come to speak to you on transgender issues was an innocent faux pas. Because even though all of us, including the ministers approached, know your intentions are good, the impact of your request to be educated on your home turf and at a time that is convenient for you puts the burden of effort on them. This essentially centers your inexperience and your passivity, and it essentially makes the very people we are trying to help to work harder. So I want to unpack this a little bit because I imagine some of you may be having something of an emotional reaction to some of what I've been saying. Stick with me. We can work it out together, okay? You may be thinking, well, what about no conversations about us without us? On the surface, that does seem like an excellent reason to ask for a transgender person to educate you. Here's the fine point. Out transgender people are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to verbal, professional, or even bodily attack daily. So unless that person has made an express and unsolicited offer to come speak, whether verbally or because they have a Book Your Ally Training Now button on their website with their rates clearly listed, then it's the same as going to a person of color to ask them to teach you how to be a better white ally. All the risk is on them. Now, Ibram Kendi has a book literally called How to Be an Anti-Racist, and that is a great source of information on that issue. And that is exactly the kind of training I'm suggesting you seek for your trans allyship. There are a plethora of resources and curricula and programming and podcasts and books all about how to be a trans ally. Diane is going to help me forward a starter list that I've collected of some of them. Now that is some really good news. The information is ripe for the plucking. Maya Angelou said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." And here we are, doing better. Go us. So everyone knows that your intentions were noble, and even those ministers who said no understand that you are seeking to be better allies. It's not that they didn't want you to be helped. They just knew they couldn't do it for you. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, a white person, was speaking to a friend of theirs, a black minister. Now that minister was making a reference to some portion of a book with an important idea that my white friend hadn't read. And so she said to the minister, "Well, can't you just tell me what the book said?" And the black woman, who loved and respected her, said, "Nope," and walked away. She knew it was not her responsibility to make my friend a better anti-racist ally. Because you can't layer on information and expect that person to be changed without their own effort It's like throwing a bunch of ingredients into the oven and expecting a cake to come out when the timer goes off. It doesn't work that way. There is process. There is learning and failing and synthesizing and reflection and embarrassment and grief and epiphany and resolve, all of which you have to earn for yourself. Here's another analogy in the form of a story. Can you tell I love stories? I live in an intentional micro-community we call the Mommune. And in our house family, we have this thing called Last P. Last P, as you can imagine, is the very last trip the kids make to the bathroom right before bedtime to minimize the chance that they'll wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes last pee happens very close to bedtime. And sometimes when my younger daughter is very, very tired, she jokes with me from her position draped across the floor. She's very dramatic. And she says, "Can't you do last pee for me, Mommy?" And we laugh, because obviously I can't. Now, I've shared some tough information about growing edges. I've got one more growing edge for you, but I think you'll like this one. For this, we turn to horticulture and the gardening method called espalier. In fact, I've sent in some pictures that you can look at too if you're looking at the screen. The word espalier is French, and it comes from the Italian spalliera, meaning something to rest the shoulder against. And these pictures all show the method of planting fruit trees against a fence and then using selective pruning and shaping and time and patience to cause the tree to grow in one plane along the same plane of the fence, or sometimes it will serve on its own as a decorative fruit-bearing border. It can serve space by marginalizing a plant that could otherwise dominate a small garden area. Now, this act of decentering, of training and shaping to grow in a certain direction, of support, of developing healthy boundaries, and even the idea of protection and fruitful nourishment, even the idea of growing edges, is a wonderful metaphor for trans allyship. We as cis folk are in dominant culture compared to anyone who is transgender, even if you have cis-passing privilege. You are in dominant culture compared to someone who is out trans. This means that our protest, our testimony is going to be centered compared to trans voices. And this is the irony, but also the advantage we have as cis allies. This means we need to be exceptionally mindful of the power and privilege we hold, and to make sure it is being used in specific and productive ways, and not accidentally doing harm because it was left untended to grow willy-nilly into the airspace. Our support should be encouraging ourselves to grow in a particular direction. As allies, we provide protective shelter, a barrier against harm, and we make nourishment available for the taking to those who are seeking protection in the center, those whom we are seeking to recenter. The pruning and shaping is not theirs to do, it is ours. Now you are among friends and beloved community, and you are not alone. If you are carrying uncomfortable feelings, or you do at any point in your growth, which honestly I hope you do, because that means you're doing it right, just remember this too shall pass. But hopefully not before it galvanizes you and crystallizes your sense of purpose and steers you toward the interesting harbors of new learning. That is transformation, beloveds. That is the way towards a deepened and effective trans-allyship. That is turning privilege into a beautiful and hearty nurture. Because allyship doesn't happen for an hour on a Sunday morning or even 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon protest. It happens out there, and it happens in here, every hour of every day. The letter of James in the Jewish annotated New Testament, chapter 2, verse 18 reads, "I, by my works, will show you my faith." Saying you're an ally is one thing. Doing the hard and uncomfortable work of allyship is quite another. Now, there is critical work to do, and we are at a critical time. It is beyond valuable for you to be doing any kind of allyship work right now, whether this is individually deconstructing your own privilege or working to organize with other groups right here in Bowling Green to engage in action out there in the world. I especially hope that you are coordinating with and collaborating with and organizing with other groups. The last thing we need is another silo full of allies. Does anyone remember the graphic of the group of very small, vulnerable fish who have organized and collected themselves into the shape of a very large fish, which is poised to eat the predator that was previously chasing them on one-on-one confrontations? That's the kind of organizing I'm talking about. You are small, but that means you are agile. And there is exciting potential and agility right now. And your passion for allyship is strong, which makes you mighty. And you're good at organizing, which means you as a fellowship have immense potential to effect great change. If you do the work, if you collaborate, and if you join others doing this work to amplify liberation. Now, your worship team wanted a speaker to come talk about trans allyship, and we've done that in perhaps an unexpected way. But maybe I did something better. At least I hope I did. I hope that instead of giving you answers, I gave you a map to a better set of questions. Let Margaret Mead's words inspire you as you dig into this journey today and this week and in the coming weeks. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Blessed be, dear ones.
Thank you, Samara, for sharing your thoughts on this very enlightening topic. As part of our responsible search for truth and meaning, we encourage thoughtful discourse. After the service, you are welcome to go to our fellowship hall and go to the discussion table to talk about it. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. We are a community of memory and of hope, and we are called to be keepers of the dream. If Diane will come up for our third Sunday beneficiary.
Last week was actually our third Sunday, and with the congregational meeting, we kind of let it slip. But actually, it couldn't have come at a better Sunday. Samara Powers, by the way, Zoomed in with the Sunday service meeting prior to this. And so she spoke about, and we told her that we are a small congregation, but she said that doesn't matter. And so today's third Sunday is Kujan. Everything in the collection plate today, unless it's designated as pledge, will go to Kentucky Unitarian Universalist Justice Action Network. Russ Funk, the coordinator of Kujan, came down and spoke to us a couple of weeks ago. This is an organization that came about through the pandemic. It was actually started by Don Cooley, Reverend Don Cooley from Louisville. And when she left, Russ Funk took it over. They are getting grants for it now to bring someone else aboard. There are over 750 UUs in the state of Kentucky, and Russ Funk is trying to find every one of them to put us all together and make our voices stronger. So I ask you today to give as you are willing and able. Thank you.
We thank you for these gifts. May we use them wisely in the service of our congregation and our community. We would like to take a moment to thank our behind-the-scenes volunteers to make this service possible today. I do want to say a very special thank you to Diane Lewis for getting our guest speaker today, Matt Hazel, who is always our technical director, and also special thanks to Flora Salford, Florian Schulte, and Brenna Derby for being our musicians. It's always beautiful when y'all show up. Thank you for sharing your time and talent with this community. Looks like we do have a little bit of community news. Next week we have a special service. It is Memorial Day weekend, and we are having a tribute. We do ask for you to bring any photos of yourself or any loved ones who did serve, and we'll put that in the service. Does it go to you, Diane, or?
It's myself, Connie, Jackie, and Janine. All of us are military dependents.
All right. If you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about joining this congregation, you can speak with a member of our membership team, which is Nancy, who's here today, or to myself, Christina Kruger, as your board president. You can also email me at president@uubgky.org. And as always, you can find more community news by reading the weekly email updates. And at the church, you can look at the bulletin boards as well. And of course, our Facebook and website are always available online. Yes.
I wanted to make sure everyone knew that next Sunday is our farm table luncheon that we're going to be having. So Jackie and Mary will be providing many of the homegrown vegetables, and we're going to be having certain groups, certain people make dishes from the farm to table, and we will be serving that. So Becky and Connie, Diane, me, Laura will be doing that next Sunday. So please enjoy luncheon next
And we have all
Sunday.
your stuff today. Everybody has placed the order, we brought everything in.
Okay.
So you can, and we're set up in the hall this morning because of the rain.
It will be free to the congregation. Of course, a donation would be acceptable. It's going to be free, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Valerie. Yes.
Do we need to make a reservation?
No. All right. Come, we'll feed you. Thank you, Valerie, and thank you to the hospitality team and Jackie and Larry for putting that on. Our last hymn today is number 1008, which is When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Stand if you're willing and able. morning, Delaire Rowe will be given our final reading, Wholeness by Sharon Wiley.
We speak so often of brokenness in religious life. Let us today speak of wholeness. We are welcome here, all of you. Every part of you is beautiful, just the way you are. Here you do not need to be something more or something less. No holding back, no hiding, no exerting yourself, no trying to be more or be more. You have inherent worth and dignity. Nothing to prove here. Nothing to prove to me or the person sitting next to you or to the children, to anyone. You don't have to try to be witty or quieter or more outgoing. You are beautiful, every part of you beautiful, just the way you are. You do not need to change anything about yourself to be welcome here. Your skin, your hair, your belly, your limbs, your face, all beautiful, just the way you are. You are extraordinary. Each and every one of you is different from each beautiful in your own beautiful way. Breathtaking.
Thanks, Delaire. We will now bid farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again. Be well and go in peace.